Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Wednesday, the Change Leadership episode, this week with James Gifford. Hey James, welcome back.
It's great to be back on the show.
So James, on Wednesdays we talk about what is potentially the thing we work with the most, that is change, of course, and also the leadership role we and others need to take in order for to help make it happen. And that's really what we want to explore. So share a story of a change process you were involved with and walk us through the steps, from beginning to end. How did that evolve? And as you go through the steps, highlight the tools, the tips, the tricks and the techniques you learned back then that you still apply today.
I think one of my favorite kind of change programs of all time, we were working on a cultural change program. That healthcare company, company acquisitions, 9 different companies coming together into one melting pot. The culture was unique to each location. There wasn't a united company feel when you were there. Like you could go to a different location and it seemed like you were on a different planet. And so we set out to meet with the CTO and CEO, and at the time there was a significant amount of conflict and escalation happening that would get to the senior VPs and oftentimes the CTO. And we sat down with them and we kind of reviewed, can't remember the name of the article, but it talked about your intentions, your behaviors, your values, and how that, what you intend doesn't always turn into the outcome through those behaviors. And so by teaching people to really what the R&D organization's values were, through ironically the acronym spelled out Act Smart, which that was a fluke, but that's what it literally spelled out. It was they wanted to be accountable, collaborative, trusting. They wanted servant leadership. They wanted measurement was one of them, but it was more about making decisions with data, resilient, and then team centric. Those were that's what the R&D organization valued. And we said, we doubled down on if we can teach people these values, then you will have less escalations at your senior leadership table. The company culture will start to kind of feel more connected. And so first thing we knew we needed to do, we needed to find people at those 9 locations and see who was interested in being part of the change. And so we looked for people that had influence, people that were dynamic, that wanted to help. And we stood up an ambassadors program. So from every location, there were 2 members, and then the remote group, there was a remote population of folks. It was big enough that we had 3 representing the remote portion of the organization. But we spent time training up these folks on, change management, the why we were trying to chase the culture program. And then they started kind of seeding the inside with some of these kind of thoughts without a big announcement. So we started kind of flooding these ideas in around the importance of values before we even launched the program. We launched the program with a decent kickoff, messaging from the CEO, CTO, and the importance of us coming together as a company for our long-term vision and how, just market perception. Like we tied it directly to the external market and how our shareholders, how our clients saw us, and then, built that case for change. We did a lot of standard ADKAR and types of change management activities, some lean change management for Jason Little, I think. But the most impactful thing that really was the catalyst was we did a workshop around modeling these behaviors through storytelling. But what we did was we wrote actual scripts. We actually wrote scripts that reflected like common problems that we saw around the organization, around a developer not wanting to speak up when they're having problems, and somebody recognizing that at stand up and then pulling them aside and saying, hey, like, you don't have to do this alone. Let me help, because they weren't, that individual that wasn't speaking up, one, wasn't being team centric. They weren't necessarily taking some of the accountability they needed to ask for help, but the other person was able to step in and notice that and have a side conversation in a, easy way. But so we did this storytelling activity. We circled the globe for a month. My wife was not happy, but we kept running this workshop until we hit everybody in the company. And then right after that, we launched a storytelling portal. And so like you could log on and talk about, you got like these tokens for telling a story where you showed up not demonstrating the values and what you learned from that experience. And then we also had tokens for folks that would recognize other people for demonstrating those values in the wild. And they would write up these 1 to 2 paragraph stories of what they did, how they saw it, the impact it had. And so it created this portal of learning that you could then redeem for swag. And then the second release of it, we released it as you could pull those things, and then the teams could cash in their token for a team dinner, a team coffee run at Starbucks. And so that gamification really then started, and then everybody telling stories about these values kind of coming to life became this catalyst for change. And the CTO had come in and was visiting, and he's like, I haven't had anybody at my desk in 6 months complaining about another person. There hasn't been any kind of escalation. And either the thing you're doing is working or just nobody wants to come tell me it's not. And it was one of those funny, awkward moments, but it was you could see it. It was clear. We literally changed the organization through games and storytelling, and just generally a good change management package, because we, enlisting the willing that could help, catalyze it. But at the same time, it was just kind of remarkable to see shenanigans. Let's send you a picture of me wearing a cardboard cutout of a guy mounted to some glasses as a costume. You'd get a kick out of that.
Yeah, I'm sure there was also a lot of fun involved in that. And I really like the focus on storytelling as kind of the trigger, and how you, as you said, gamified the storytelling, because no matter how much we know about storytelling, if it ain't happening, it ain't having an impact, right? And how you were able to bring that up as something that people would be rewarded for, but also would learn from, right? Because if you write a story, you read a story. And that's really important, because by writing the story, you're already sharing with others, but also definitely kind of incorporating those changes that you were talking about. And then when you go and then you read others, then there's this self-reinforcing mechanism, right? Like, others are also doing this. This must be great. And yes, I want to help the team get a Starbucks coffee run. So let's write a few more stories, right? That's really brilliant. And of course, the CTO, I'm sure, was happy about that.
He was really happy about it. And he's like, when you told me I had to go spend $60,000 on tokens, I definitely looked at you weird. But the amount of money they had saved from just everybody working better together, it was tangible. There was definitely, the company became way more productive. And we were delivering more regularly, and it was we invested $60,000 in swag and tokens, and we had amazing outcomes. He's like, I would do that again in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Big changes have big impact. Thank you for sharing that, James.
It was a pleasure.
Leading change is one of the core skills we must acquire, but it is only one of the steps towards our success as Scrum Masters. Tomorrow, on Success Thursday, we will talk about how to define success for the Scrum Master role. We'll cover tips on how to measure your way to that position, and most importantly, how to develop that focus on continuous improvement that is as important for Scrum Masters as it is for teams. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.